What is Bitcoin going to do within the next few weeks and months? Let me show you how I'm playing the current Bitcoin situation, and I've left some of our very old analysis here on purpose. We are analyzing the time frame from the top to the bottom and the bottom phase. And we're talking about how similar that was back in February of 2022. 2023 actually. So I've left that here as our old analysis. It's on the channel. You can go back and watch it. Just so you know how accurate we've been this cycle. We've mentioned the fact that February marks the time where the bottom is done, it's behind us, and that most likely will rally. Since then, obviously, you've seen this great price action, and we're covering this on the channel. Just have a look at the history. So let's talk about the current situation. The current situation is as follows. We have had a brilliant few months and even years of price action on Bitcoin, and in my opinion, we've topped out at $126,000. Right now, we are seeing a bounce from the very aggressive selling that happened. But overall, I think the top is in my opinion. If we manage to get to the levels of 120 to 125, then I would consider more upside potential. But until then, my current strategy is that we are forming a classic head and shoulders pattern. So you've got a left shoulder, a right shoulder, and we're creating another shoulder right here. So taking that into account, I think what we could do within the next few weeks is bounce around those levels until we hit around 108,000 before going back down. And why am I saying this? Well, we've covered the fact that when it comes to the bottom, we're talking about it years ago. And that has proven itself to be a good analysis. And since then, we have an asset that is quite heavy in market cap. And that asset has managed to go around 6x, so 600% since then. That is crucial information because nothing goes up forever. We have to consider that. And the fact that we are seeing this bounce, if you zoom out as we are in right now on a weekly time frame, it is a perfect scenario for the right shoulder to happen, to trap some longs and to continue going down before making a bottom sometime in either late 2026 or 2027. So my current strategy is that we are playing this right hand shoulder, and it's not all done for crypto in my opinion, because there are many things that I want to talk about today when it comes to altcoins as well. But Bitcoin, in my opinion, is creating the right shoulder, which would get to around 108, maybe even push towards 109, 110 before going back down. But obviously that right shoulder could still be lower, around 100, 102, for example, and that would be perfectly fine from the technical point of view, and it would still create a right shoulder pattern before going lower. So the RSI has been reset almost completely. It didn't go to the oversold territory, which I would want it to go, but we are currently bouncing off the zone of around, oversold, which further gives me proof that we are in for a bounce as we are experiencing right now, and maybe that 108 is going to hit before we go back down. As you can see on RSI, we've been creating lower highs for the past few weeks, and we started doing those lower highs back in July. So since then, RSI is going down, lower highs, lower lows as well. Right now, that bounce could get us to 108, which would be very, very nice. Once that happens, once we are around those levels, I'll create another analysis going forward for the next few weeks and months. But until then, that is my strategy on BTC. I want to show you something interesting because I think many people are in altcoins, and the fact that the Bitcoin dominance chart is showing signs of weakness is very encouraging. So on here, again, you could argue this is left shoulder, this is the head, and the right shoulder is already formed on Bitcoin dominance, which further makes me believe that Bitcoin is going to go to that 108 and go back down. But during this going down process, I think Bitcoin dominance is going to tank, and we are going to see some altcoins move very rapidly. Also remember that the institutions and big players who are in the market, they will see altcoins as an opportunity within the certain time window. It's not going to be, lights are shut on Bitcoin and we are done with crypto for the next year or so. It's going to be transferring value over to altcoins over the next months. I think especially as we get towards that 50% mark on Bitcoin dominance, that's when altcoins will start to shine really well, in my opinion. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. And that left and right shoulder pattern is playing out really nicely for Bitcoin dominance. So back in November 2021, we've topped out on Bitcoin. Let's have a look where we were on the dominance back then. November 2021. Let me just check if I'm looking at that correctly. November 2021. November 2021, we are right here. So this time we are a lot higher, but again, as Bitcoin was topping out, we've seen a slump on the Bitcoin dominance chart as well. So even though Bitcoin had its high and it was going down, actually, it made altcoins go up during that phase. So again, this is quite bullish when it comes to altcoins because even though Bitcoin was going down, the altcoins were going up. That's why you've seen the transfer of value. And as you can see, it didn't take that much of a drop for altcoins to do really, really well. We are around 47 mark when the Bitcoin top happened, and we dropped all the way down to 39%. Let's have a look at one more thing. So back in April 2021, we've actually had this kind of a fake top. It was a double top back in 2021. But let's see how that was looking. So April 19th. April 19th. Right here. Right here. This is very interesting. So the first top, the top that was supposed to be in, was the time when we had the first really massive drop in dominance. And back then we are doing analysis back in 2021 when we were talking about how FTX kind of fabricated another top and all the history with that as well. So you can go back and watch that if you wish. But what I'm trying to tell you is that even though Bitcoin can go down, altcoins can do really, really well as long as the top is in. If the top is not in, and if we get to 120 and we continue going higher, then the Bitcoin dominance chart would still be going higher because interest in Bitcoin would skyrocket, making altcoins useless and investment in altcoins useless as well. So, in order for us to see any kind of spectacular or any kind of movement on altcoins, I think the top had to be in already for Bitcoin. I don't see any other way because otherwise the dominance chart would be rising as well if the top is not in. If the top is in, as we said, that is gonna drop drastically, and during that drop, especially as we get to those 50% levels and below, I think we could see really good opportunities with altcoins. So let me know how you see the whole situation with Bitcoin and altcoins. Are you bullish for 2026? And also, one more thing. With altcoins, it's usually just a window of 2 to 3 months, and that's it. So getting all of this price action on Bitcoin dominance, getting all of this data, which took years to form, just for us to flush down like we did back in April 2021, it just takes a month or maximum 3 months for altcoins to do really, really well. And that would be it. So even though Bitcoin can rise for months and years, altcoins usually have a short window of opportunity. So with that in mind, I'll leave you with some bullish feelings. I think altcoins will do really well. Not all altcoins, because the liquidity is way different than it was back in 2021. We had a totally different story with liquidity back then, but now I think many altcoins will do well, especially the ones that are building and especially the ones that have a lot of backing. What do I mean by that? Well, the popular figures in the space have the most influence. And if those influential figures support a project, then I think it has a lot of room to grow, because at the end of the day, as we said, 2 to 3 months is all we will have. And during that time, it is crucial for projects not to build communities and start building communities and start making moves. The moves are already happening. People are positioning themselves already in altcoins that will do well. When that time comes for Bitcoin dominance to drop, the people who are the promoters, the people who have influence, the influential figures, like CZ and the whole Aster story, Aster Dex, these people are already positioned. They're just waiting for that Bitcoin dominance to start dropping. So if you want to learn about altcoins which I'm following personally, then I do recommend you guys follow and subscribe. I'll be covering those in the next days and weeks, because I think we are getting into the time where those investments will do really well. Thank you for watching today. I'll see you in the next one.